right. Shalom, first and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the fellow laborers out there. And as always, you believers. So yeah, I'm back once again through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. As always, continuing in the spirit and theme of prophecy. And pretty much that spirit, being the spirit of prophecy, directly correlates with the testimony of our Lord Yahweh Shai, the word, as it were, which pretty much serves as a commandment which emanates from the throne of the Most High himself, meaning it serves as a edict, if you will, in which that decree features the various kingdoms which have risen and eventually fell out of power. Matter of fact, let me begin real quick right here. In the book of Wisdom of Solomon, and I believe that's Sirach. I always get them mixed up. The book of Sirach, the 11th chapter. Book of Sirach, the 11th chapter and the 6th verse, in which, for those of you out there who have eyes and ears, I mean, these precepts which come out, it gets to the point of ad nauseum, damn near, almost like a broken record, but there's a science, if you will, to being constantly reminded of these different pressure points and scriptures and topics. It's an effort to what? Digest, pretty much download into your mental Rolodex, which will suffice you. It will serve as a hedge when all hell breaks loose. Because remember, the prize is one's reasoning. You lose your mind, then you're lost. So the Lord is pretty much protecting us, hedging us with his word. And because it's going to be a point where this word will not be readily available. Hence, the famine of the word. Just imagine that, not being able to sit in on these different lessons and live streams to hear the voice of the apostles and your teachers. So you have to get it now. Oh, what's that? Psalms 119 and 50. This word is likened to a comfort in our affliction. So this the book of Sirach 11 and 6. It says, many mighty men have been greatly disgraced. Yeah, and this is concerning kingdoms and empires, the kings of the earth, who had their time to have dominion. They had subjects. In a lot of cases, these kings was deemed as demigods. Cities was named after them. Case in point, Ramses. You had the city of Ramses. But guess what? Eventually, they was disgraced. They was brought low. See, many mighty men have been greatly disgraced, and the honorable delivered into other men's hands. And that's dealing with rulership as well. Being honored means to be promoted. But when you look at, especially the timeline in Daniel, the 2nd chapter, well, when one kingdom fell, then what happened? The next kingdom would come up in their stead, taking the lot of the previous kingdom. But when you read, matter of fact, and we're going to go back here. Let me grab some real quick. As concerning the kingdom of heaven, that won't be the case, because the kingdom of heaven would never fall. It would never be given over into other men's hands. In contrast to the so-called white man. Here it is. He's laboring and toiling, tooth and nail, to establish himself as a perpetual ruler. But guess what? He's going to be disgraced. And his kingdom going to be given over to us. See? Not saying we're going to inherit this wickedness, but simply put, we're going to occupy the seat of power. See that? And again, this is King's language, what we're dealing with over here. And right there, it cancels out just the average casual Israelite, obviously the 2/3, they want no parts of this type of conversation. This is only reserved and designated to those who have developed a ruling class mentality. See? And that's pretty much what Yahweh Shah was promoting. Remember, his ministry was framed as what? The kingdom of heaven. John the Baptist was a forerunner of that. It tells you how John went forth preaching that what? The kingdom was at hand. So this is the book of Daniel. The 2nd chapter and the 44th verse, and it reads, and you see here, right, the head in the divine kingdom. See that? So this is what the Bible promotes. And that should be a joyful sound to all of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, people who have been disenfranchised, beaten down, downtrodden, robbed, spoiled. Is you who at the head of the corner marching and locking arms and crying out for justice. So the report of you ruling and having a mastery over your enemies should be one of great delight. But as it were, you despised it. And it's okay because it was meant to play out that way. So this is Daniel 2:44. It says, and in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom. And these kings, the days of these kings is dealing with this current present life, where you had a so-called white man ruling and the other nations reigning with the beast for an hour. That's why they have different seats on these different councils. You have the UN, the EU, NATO. So we're in the days of those kings, but the Lord said what? In the days of those kings, simultaneously, he's going to set up a kingdom right in the midst of these kings and their different policies. The Lord will be raising up the poor right in the midst of it. Matter of fact, let me click on this phrase set up, which again, we have gone into this countless of times. But hey, the feast is plentiful, right? It's more and more to digest. It almost seems like the more we go into these different precepts, there's a new revelation, not meaning that it's outside of the original breakdown or whatever, but it's more enlightened. That light is shining brighter and brighter. The Hebrew words that will be quam, and it says to arise, stand. So the Lord is erecting the temple right in the midst of these kings. You see, to arise from. Look, it says to come on the scene. So that's why you have the ministry pretty much plastered, thrust into the public's eye. It's playing out on the YouTube, in particular, the internet, which is biblical, if you didn't get the memo. It says to arise out of inaction. Man, that's cold. That complements Ezekiel the 37th chapter, the parable of the dry bones. Remember, we was in a dead state. Here in America, the scripture speaks about how a dead body inherits worms and creepy things. And from a spiritual symbol or perspective, that dead body represents America, which has inherited creepy and worms and bug outs, weirdos. And we was lumped amongst that number as well. Until the Lord, in an act of mercy, sent forth his spirit, which erected us from that dead state. See? Now we're standing on our feet. See? It says to stand, to endure, because there's been a lot of attempts on the ministry, if you will. There's been a lot of efforts to try to silence us. You see, they've got Vocab Malone. He just pretty much emerges from time to time out of that sarcophagus, out of that grave. And he tried to pretty much, his whole campaign is to question the validity of the ministry. See? But we endure through it all. You're seeing all the different campaigns against the apostles and all the men that's been laboring. In some capacity, there has been attempts to cause it to cease. But the scriptures say, unless the Lord build a house, then it will not stand. So the Lord have stamped his approval, have co-signed the ministry. It says to set up, establish. See that? To set up, lift up, to establish, appoint, to be made to stand. So the Most High himself, through his hand, Yahweh Shai, is the driving force behind the ministry. And the constancy, the steadfastness of it. See? Let's see what these definitions here in the Strong's give us. It says corresponding to H695, which that's that word quam in the Hebrew. It says appoint, establish, make, raise up. It says rise, make, to stand, set up. See? So again, when you go back here to Daniel, the 2nd chapter in the 44th verse, it says, and in the days of these kings, meaning this current present life, the time where you have the nations and the conglomerates of these kings having their fair share, if you will, of the planet Earth. The Lord said, in these days, he's going to what? He's going to set up a kingdom. Or in other words, he's going to bring it on the scene. It's going to be erected. It's almost like the Lord had built forth a fortress behind enemy lines. That's something to marvel at. It says, which shall never be destroyed. Did y'all catch that? Let me read it again. It says, which shall never be what? Destroyed, indicating that the previous kingdom will be destroyed. See? So that proves that America is not just going to bow out gracefully. No, it's going to be abruptly moved out of the way and uprooted. See? Again, it says, the power of heaven shall set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. See that? And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. So that means after the kingdom of heaven is set up, it won't be another regime to come after us. Right? Versus the ancient Babylonians who had the Medo-Persian Empire to come afterward. That means that the Babylonians' kingdom was left to another people. The Persians and the Medes, their kingdom was left to another people, which was the Greeks. But that won't be the case with the kingdom of heaven. See? It says, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So we're going to have all the nations under our feet. They're going to be securely placed under the children of Israel. We're going to rule over them with that rod of iron. It's going to be a rigorous rule. Look that word up, rigorous. This kingdom of heaven that we promote. See? But again, what's the point? It shall not be left to other people. So when you go back here again to Ecclesiasticus 11, and I'm going to start at the 5th verse. It says, many kings have sat down upon the ground, and one that was never thought of have worn a crown. And that one who have never been thought of is the children of Israel, the poor, which will be spearheaded by who? The elect, the governing body. See? It says, many mighty men have been greatly disgraced, and the honorable delivered into other men's hands. So again, that word honorable is a buzzword for rulers. That word honor translates to promote or to be empowered. Well, these previous kingdoms was delivered into other men's hands. That's not going to be the case with the kingdom of heaven. So many mighty men, many kings have sat down. They had their time and they had to sit down, man. So what makes you think America is anything different? Matter of fact, let's go there. Because the writing is on the wall. And that actually literally happened with the ancient Babylonians. When you read Daniel, the 5th chapter, it speaks about that writing that appeared in the feast of Belshazzar. And the writing was what? That their kingdom was numbered. And the scriptures tell you that a hand appeared and wrote it. So now when you fast forward to this present time, That hand represents really Yahushua, the spirit of prophecy. And the writing is on the wall. As the word go forth, there's different signs and tokens, which I got a little info I found to be interesting. I'm going to share with you all that proves that America's out of here, man. Despite the backlash, the pushback, the unwillingness to hearken to the report, the incredulity of you people, guess what? This place is finished because the Lord is actually supporting our words, if you will, with omens. See? We're going to get into that as well. But before we do, let me go right here to Isaiah, the 47th chapter, and we're going to start at the top. It says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon," in which we just read in Sirach, the 11th chapter, where many kings have wept, sat on the ground. So America is no different. Again, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, sit on the ground. There is no throne. So again, we're dealing with kings. You see? The rising and falling, the erecting and abasing, the building and lifting up and taking down of the kings of the earth. It says, "O daughter of the Chaldeans." The Chaldeans is a buzzword for you Americans. And that's the spirit I've been in lately. Right? If you outside of the circle, I just liken you to a Chaldean. It says, "For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." And that represents what? You being the lady of kingdoms, being exalted over all the nations. It says, "Take the millstones and grind meal, uncover the locks, uncover the locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the river." So you see these words that jump out here: uncover, make bare. See? That means what? The Lord, in an act of mercy, would pretty much support our words with actual signs. You will see it. They'll be made bare. It'll be so much so to where you can't really deny it, that this place is trending downward. See? It says, "The nakedness," so like your thy nakedness shall be uncovered. See, another word there. "Yeah, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man." Now, real quick, I'm going to click on this word "seen" right here. Ra'ah. It says to see, look at, inspect, perceive, consider. So you can't consider something unless it's revealed. There have to be something there that piques your interest. So these words hold weight. It's not as if we just speaking words. The Lord is actually, again, supporting our words with omens. See? It says to see, perceive, to see, have vision, to look at, see, regard, look after, see after, learn about, observe, watch, look upon, look out, find out. Because when you see, right, somebody can tell you something, but when you see it, then that brings a bit more closure. It brings a bit more edifying to what was said. See? Like, for an example, we're going to actually see Yahushua one day. And in that moment, everybody going to find out what's up. There's going to be the exclamation point, if you will. It says to see, observe, consider, look at, give attention to, discern, distinguish. Discernment and distinguishing is really the highest level of understanding, when you're able to discern. Because you can see something, but if you don't understand or discern, you can't distinguish, then there's a gray area now. Your sight have now been officially distorted. See, and the Lord have given us the ability to see, have given us eyes in which that process is by way of the light. Remember, your eyes is really rendered useless without light. You go into a dark room, and if there is no light, then what good is your eyes? So the light accompanies the eyes, and we know the light represents the prophecies, this word. It says to see, observe, consider. So we're able to consider now. Look at, give attention to, discern, distinguish, to look at, gaze at, to appear, present oneself, right? To appear, present oneself. Case in point, the missiles. The missiles have appeared. They have presented themselves. See, to be seen, to be visible. So it's certain things that happen, things that's transpiring right before our eyes that accompanies the words that we speak. See, it says to be seen, to cause to see, show, to cause to look intently at, behold, cause to gaze at, cause to be seen, to be shown, to be exhibited. See? So with that established, I want to open up another tab right here. Let me see. Real quick, I want to have this word queued up right here. We're going to go into this word. As you can see, the title of this lesson, could this be an omen? Could what be an omen? Well, what you see right here is from Raw Story. And this information surfaced 2 days ago. Now check this out. And again, I found this to be interesting, but most importantly, as we read into this, you're going to see where the power of this word, the word holds weight, man. See? Seeing that, again, it instigates the affairs on the planet Earth. So it says, Trump display at his state fair already falling apart after 3 days report. So it says President Trump carefully constructed vision for transforming the nation's capital is literally what? Falling apart. So this is a physical thing that we can see. We just looked up that word, see, right? The nakedness shall be seen, in which one of the words was what? To observe. So as we speak these things, the Lord in the shore of mercy to comfort us, man. He's showing us, no different than if you traveling on a journey to a neighboring city and you have the memo, whether it's GPS, your Google map, and it shows you that you're going to close in on a particular city in so many miles. When you see those landmarks, that comforts you. So this is what the Most High doing, man. These words are not falling on deaf ears. It says the Great American State Fair meant to showcase his grandiose, which that word grandiose, when you look it up, it pretty much means something huge. So it's a grandiose architectural ambitions has spiraled into a 3-day disaster of musical acts boycotting, equipment failures, tiny crowds. Now remember, this guy, he erected this, he put this together. His visions was for this to be a moment, a galvanizing, rallying the troops moment. You can see this guy was projecting it. His advisors, they was projecting it to be something grand, that word grandiose. But look what happened. Again, it says, has spiraled into a 3-day disaster. of musical acts boycotting. So you had acts, musicians who just boycotted it. It says equipment failures, tiny crowds, and now a deteriorating replica ark, buckling under less than ideal weather conditions. So the whole ark that they set up, the ship buckling, and it's under these less than ideal weather conditions, which now that takes the power out of the hands of chance or coincidence. That's a higher power now instigating this. But again, and this came across my desk, and again, I'm sharing it with you all. But we can see where this is all spiritual, man. See, because this whole erection of this ark and this state fair thing he was trying to put together was a rallying point. See, and you're going to see, check this out. It says, according to New York Times reporting, the centerpiece of Trump's fair, a scaled down version of his proposed 250 foot, and that's spiritual. He had it erected 250 feet because it was to commiserate the 250-year legacy of these devils, which in reality, that's nothing more than an indicator that your kingdom has ran its course and is all over. Which when you go into 250 years, when you go deep into it, it translates to 10th generation. It translates to 10 generations. And that's one of the reasons why the scriptures say, well, Esau will not enter into this, into the covenant, even after the 10th generation. So here at the end of the kings of the earth having dominion, which will be peaked with the so-called white man. This is the last 250, which, by the way, when you look it up, the lifespan, if you will, of kingdoms is 250 years. You can look it up. So the last 250 years as it relates to the nations, Esau being the end of the earth, that 10th generation, he would not savor of that which he desired, and that's to be rulers. See? It says triumphal. See? So you see where he was going with this. See that? He set up a version, this scaled, grandiose ark, 250 feet as a triumphal ark. Look, it's already showing signs of structural failure. Can't make this stuff up, man. This is Yahweh Shai making his presence felt. See? And pretty much co-signing his prophets, because we've been telling you this place is through. But now the Lord, again, is what? Giving you omens. See that? We're going to go into that word omen, which I got queued up. It says it's already showing signs of structural failure. The vinyl covering stapled over a wood frame and embezzled with one nation under God, and that God is not Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. They don't acknowledge Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And really, for those of us who have eyes, we could peel back the veil that one nation is dealing with their new world order, because that's their desire to set up a one world government with actually one religion, if you will, under the Catholic Church, one currency. See, one tongue, meaning they all speak, not meaning they're going to just transform to the English language, meaning that they're all in harmony and synergy with one law. As it is written, their tongue walk of the earth. See, it says, have begun buckling. See, they have begun buckling, man. That's Isaiah, the 24th chapter. See? It says, under the combined assault of high temperature, humidity, and wet rain. And I'm going to say this, man. This is only for the spiritually minded, the serious minded, who walk in the light, who understand that these different articles we bring out in videos or outside information really is not complementing the word. The word complements it. See? Everything's centered around the word. This just caveats, so to speak. It says the ark represents Trump's broader vision for the nation's capital, a planned White House ballroom, renovated golf courses, and the repainting and sealing of the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, which that's a whole nother story. That whole pool is pilling up too. It says all of which have come under scrutiny and criticism. It says 3 days into a 16-day event, Trump showcased 3 days, right, into this 16-day event. See, that all that should ring a bell. 3 days. See? It says Trump showcase for his ambitions is becoming another debacle with sparse attendance, so nobody didn't show up, man. It says under a sweltering sun, power failures. This is all what happened under this whole presentation. It says disabling the Ferris wheel for hours. It says in a concert headliner by Vanilla Ice. That's a joke. But he canceled the shit. He said he don't want no part of it. See, with days still to run. See that? So that's pretty much it. But again, the question I asked, could this be an omen? Could this be an omen? Now let's to get a better feel for this concept by going to this word omen. Let me see if we can. It says a casual event of occurrences supposed to portent, but that word portent goes in a warning, good or evil, foreboding, augury. It says to give indication of the future, to give indication of the future. And this is what prophecy serves as. The word go forth, and what happens after that? Things begin to bud. See that? It says from omen, related, the Latin verb omori meant to know or tell from omen, to predict. So things that take place serves as predictions as well, not just words. See? You see someone coughing up blood. That's an omen that they sick or they're going to die if they don't get the proper medical attention. So what we see, even if it's subtle or emphatic, from the extreme of a missile being test fired by a rival nation to something as subtle as the Ferris wheel not operating at Trump's inaugural presentation, and everything basically spiraling out of control. The ark, the 250 feet ark that was built as a sign or a symbol of triumphing, beginning to buckle. That's an omen. What is an indicator of a future event that America is not going to stand, is not going to be able to withstand or endure the onslaught of prophecy. See that? In which our Lord Yahushua, matter of fact, let me get that, and we're going to get ready to close up. I didn't want to make this too long. Just kind of wanted to hit a few points, but you can see the Lord is working, man, on our behalf. The water Yahushua. See? Because the Lord is not going to leave us confounded. Our face will not wax pale. Because you got people out there that's banking on us. They need us to lose. You got people out there that's hoping that this don't come to its fruition. See? But the Lord is showing that he with us, man. What's that? 1 Samuel, the 3rd chapter. The Lord let none of Samuel's word fall to the ground. So this is the book of, what's that? Matthew. Is it Matthew? Something in which Yahushua spoke. Should be around here. Yeah, this is Matthew, the 24th chapter, and the 32nd verse. It says, now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, see, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So when the process of a fig tree, in this case, or whatever tree, when it begins to produce forth its leaves, meaning it bear that respective fruit concerning that respective tree, then you know what time you're in. Because a fig don't bear trees in the winter. It's a certain season. So we're in a season where summer is now, which simply translates to a changing of the guard. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. But how do we know this? Because the fig is wet, putting forth leaves. So not only are we speaking it, you see it. You see the Lord beginning to visit the so-called white man. We just saw it in the article. And not just the article. If you peer out, all of us who have been given the luxury of sight, we see it, man. We see that Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is making good on his promise. He's actually visiting our enemies. See? Verse 33, it says, so likewise, so you see what Yahushua is using a tangible thing in the form of a fig tree to bring home a spiritual point. See? And that's what we do. We pretty much follow in that same legacy. We follow the science of how Yahushua taught through the Spirit. It says, so likewise ye, when ye shall see that? When ye shall see all these things, know that it is near. What is near? The kingdom of heaven, even at the doors. We're about to not just see, right? We're about to see Yahushua. And Yahushua ain't going to disappoint. Yahushua going to show up with the baddest garment, the baddest, man. Yahushua is going to show up and show out, man. And that's what we're being groomed for. But again, it will be a point where you will see, right? So let's click on this word see in closing. Oh, and just a quick nugget. I mentioned Daniel, the 5th chapter, where the king, he saw the writing on the wall. And the key word, matter of fact, you know what? I've been bringing that up. Let me just go to it before we go into this word. Because it was a moment in time where they actually saw their fate. See, this is Daniel, the 5th chapter. I go straight to the point. It says, in the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand and wrote over against the candlestick upon, they were shook when they saw that, because to set the scene, they was having a great feast. And they was pretty much mocking the Most High. They thumbed their nose up at the Most High by using the vessels that they seized from Jerusalem to drink out of. See? And it was toasting it. Right? And that's a foreshadowing as well, because remember, Yahushua said here in these latter days, it will be likened unto the days of Noah, where they was wet, they was eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, and knew not until the flood came. It says, upon the plaster of the wall, so a hand appeared and started writing upon the wall. It says, of the king's palace, it says, and the king saw, see? And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. See that? So it is a point where you're going to actually see the Lord in action. And that's what we're witnessing now. Will be considered an omen. See? Let me see if this got a root. That's a phrase, but it's let me see something here. Yep. So you see where it says he saw it, but I think it's another word in here as well. Which they all, everybody in their hearing, they saw it. They saw that actually writing on the wall. Yeah. So let me just go back here. I was trying to see if. All right. So yeah, let's just go back to this word. So again, you see, even in the case of the ancient Babylonians, before that kingdom was translated, which that kingdom being removed out of power was more of a surgical strike, because you had Darius to send assault. He sent forth troops and caught them while they was feasting. But this transition gonna be emphatic. It's gonna be with a great noise. See? So this is that word see, right? Yahweh Shai said when you see all these things, let's get the pronunciation in the Greek.
Strong's G 3708. Harao. Harao.
All right. So it says to see with the eyes. See that? So from a spiritual perspective, we see spiritually, we see this, what the scriptures are saying. It's certain parables and dark sayings, which the Lord peeled the veil back to give us better understanding and overall clarity. But in this case, it says what? Literally see with the eyes, right? The next definition is see with the mind, which I just mentioned, to perceive or know. But then right here it says to become acquainted with by experience. See? So this all contributes to our overall understanding. Not only the fact that we hear the word and believe it, but the Lord, in an act of mercy, a show of compassion and overall favor, is going to show us. We see it. We see the microchip. We see the infrastructure set up. See? It says to experience. See? To see, look to. To care, pay heed to. Right? See if this root word to look at, behold, to allow oneself to be seen, to appear. So yeah, basically, we're in very interesting time, to say the least. Let's just say that, because we're in a time where Yahweh Shem Yahushua is making his move, man. And the Lord is not going to tiptoe us out the back door. No, the Lord is with a mighty hand is going to emphatically deliver us. And in doing so, he's going to show forth signs, wonders, tokens, and as it relates to this lesson, omens, in which we looked up that word omen, and basically it translates to what? An indication of the future. So yeah, with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakudash, double honors to the head apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the fellow laborers out there, and as always, you believers, to the next time. Shalom.